This week on Supercars Torque, the powers that be won't let Shane van Gisbergen win, and then he gets the most points over the weekend, and Macaulay Jones is looking for a used road car. There's a lot to cover off this week, so a few little topics that I didn't get to last week that I just want to cover off very quickly. 888 and their super fuel tanks. Storming a teacup, that one I think. They've expanded their fuel tanks that are in the pits, so they're bulging out. I'm no physicist, but I don't understand if you've got a restricted fuel flow through the pipe. I don't understand how they can fill them any quicker with the restrictor. As far as I know, there's a restrictor on the pipe. So, yeah. Not sure on that one. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it is just fully gravity fed and maybe they are somehow getting an advantage out of these, but they can't put more fuel in them. There's a restrictor there. What I did find more interesting was after some of the pit dramas that we, mainly the ones that we saw in Darwin with the 888 guys, they actually modified something to do with the hubs and the wheel nuts and all that for Townsville to alleviate that problem. And I don't recall them having any troubles over the weekend. There was a few other teams that did though. Even in the Grand Prix, we saw a couple of wheel nut dramas. So maybe they should speak to 888 about getting their wheel nuts fixed. What I find very strange about this is, once again, like what I've been saying with the rattle guns, all the teams go and spend mega dollars on rattle guns and that. Why are we spending different amounts of money on wheel nuts and wheel hubs and whatever? Please, with Gen 3, another thing that shouldn't be a money thing within the teams, everyone should just have the same widget on something like that. This one that's just ridiculous. Yeah, why? The other little thing I wanted to cover off from last week that I didn't get to, Timmy Blanchard filling in the Super 2 ranks there. He wasn't that far behind Feeney, and Brock Feeney is doing a brilliant job, but this year I think he needs to be smashing that field. No offence to Jaden Ojeda, Zach Best, Aaron Seaton and that. Those guys, it's not like, I think it was the 2012 season where we had Percat and McLaughlin and Mostert and Scott Pye all going for the championship, all in great teams, but essentially all in main game teams. This year doesn't seem to be one of those years where you've got, where we're going to see a glut of guys kind of making the step up next year. So I think Feeney needs to be smashing them, and he wasn't far enough ahead of Blanchard for me to be going, this guy is definitely head and shoulders. He should have the 888 seat next year. A few other little news pieces this week. For those fans of driving on the computer, the E-Series will be back. Yeah, I'm excited too. From the 15th of September. I think it was a 10-week series. It will be on Foxtel, KO and 7+. So all you people complaining about not being able to watch Supercars, you can watch the E-Series on 7+. You can also watch the Supercars on 7+, as far as I know. So it will be all-stars and some pro drivers. Now, the pro drivers are the guys who are really good at the computer stuff. And the all-stars will be your, like, Shane van Gisbergens, and Jaime was pretty good on the E-Series as well, I think. Brody was another one. Those guys, I'm not sure who they've got signed up for and whether they're going to be in every round or whatever, and if anybody actually cares about it. Little rumour doing the rounds. Lee Holdsworth has come out and said, I can't remember if he was close to signing for somewhere for next year, or he just wants to drive somewhere next year. A lot of people are doing the calculations, getting the old calculator out, putting 2 and 2 together and getting 46, and saying Bryce Fullwood's replacement there, Lee Holdsworth. Bryce Fullwood brings middies money. Lee Holdsworth doesn't bring money. And it's not like Lee's going to just bang that thing, straight to the front of the top 10 anyway. Yes, he did have provisional pole at Bathurst last year, but, Jack LeBrock brings a surprise every now and again in that car. So, what would be the point of changing Bryce Fullwood for Lee Holdsworth? Anybody? Tell me? Exactly. Techno have come out and said, or is it Team Sydney? Anyway, they've come out and said they're having trouble finding and keeping hold of staff. Right, so you've moved the team from Brisbane, where there's a lot of V8 supercar people. You've moved it to Sydney, where there isn't any because there's no teams in Sydney. Just a little side note as well with that. It's funny, I think the interview was with Tim Edwards during the week, and he said about the Sydney lockdown, it only affects one team, and they're kind of on the border, so they're not really in the CBD. He was talking about Brad Jones Racing. I'm not sure if he was forgetting or just discounting Team Sydney from his care. So anyway, Techno Team Sydney have come out and said they're having trouble with staff, blah, blah, blah. Well, you employ someone in Sydney and then you go, oh no, we're going to move back to our base in Queensland because of lockdowns and the such like. As if anyone Sydney based wants to go and work for them because they're going to be, I'm just going to travel to SMP each day and, do the odd raceway. It was bad enough for the team, the Victorian teams being on the road for most of the year. These Sydney guys, we might just have to relocate forever to Queensland because Team Sydney is going to be based in Queensland. Or if you in Queensland go, well, what happens to my job when they, COVID, if it ever goes away? When we end up back in Sydney, do I have to move for my job, or are we going to run this two base kind of system? So, I was not surprised that story came out, and should it really be a story? Macaulay Jones is going to buy a shitbox manual car to practice his starts. Apparently, he's having trouble starting. You live in Albury, just take one of the race cars out the back somewhere and go and, practice start it. Can't be that hard, can it? And on the Brad Jones racing team, Todd Hazelwood had a fancy new paint job during the week. Tools.com. Apparently that's my website. I didn't see an announcement on this. I'm not sure if I missed something, but I did. Normally, we sit there eagerly anticipate. It's actually not as exciting that it's Todd Hazelwood now. It used to be really exciting about the Tuesday each race week. What is Nick Percat's paint job going to be each week? It's Todd Hazelwood. They didn't even bother. I didn't see. The first I saw of it was, shots from practice, and I went, "Hey, doesn't look. It's very basic, but it was a pretty good looking car over the weekend." The last thing we need to cover off before we actually get into the racing over the weekend, Sydney Motorsport Park has been postponed, and at the end of, or towards the end of August, August 21, 22. The cars are going to be racing at Queensland Raceway. Big turnaround there. Apparently now we can go to Ipswich. They're going to put in some temporary fixes there. I don't want to get into it right now, but after all the crap that's going on with Queensland Raceway, why do we need to do temporary fixes? Why don't we fix the thing properly so we can have racing there whenever we want? So fingers crossed that Sydney still happens at some point during the year. Fingers crossed we do go to Winton at some point during the year. Perth, New Zealand are in doubt because of all of, they don't want infected people coming into their states or countries in New Zealand's case. So that's where we're at. At least, they are announcing more rounds while ones are getting postponed or potentially cancelled. So, anyway, Sydney Motorsport Park a little bit later on in the year for a night race. Probably a better idea than having it in the middle of winter too. Just saying. Now, first step in the racing over the weekend, we talk about qualifying. Interesting top 10 shootout, another storm in a teacup thing. I'm just wondering how much did Supercars pay Zane Goddard to crash during his shootout run, and Zane Goddard getting into the shootout and having a crack as well. Because obviously for them to then stuff up Shane Van Gisbergen's run, they obviously organised, with Zane to crash so that he didn't have to, so that they didn't have to win everything. The funny thing with them saying, it looks like people don't want us to win. He extended his championship lead on his teammate and scored more points than anybody else over the whole weekend. You didn't win all three races, but, you did end up, 6th, 1st and 2nd. Not a bad weekend, We can't... All right. Then we had a bit of a dust-up with Brodie, best Norwell mates and whatnot. Apparently all Brodie's fault because he deserved it. It was a bit of a racing. Yeah, okay, maybe Brodie give him a nudge or whatever and stuff like that. I just, a bit of it. Do we need to be penalising people for this? Will it get worse and worse? I just think a little bit of, let them go, let them sort it out a bit later on. The other funny thing as well that they, complained about Brodie doing that kind of dive bomb into turn 1. Didn't Shane do that at the last race? Are you just sad because someone did it to you? You can't have it both ways. Or maybe you can. Anyway, someone else got to win instead of the Triple Eight Steamroller. Was Cam Waters after a great Tickford pit stop, which undercut Anton, who has seemed to have stepped up his game a bit after I, criticised him the other week. He's been quite good in Townsville, looking a lot more mature, not quite as consistent as what we probably need him to be, but he did have 3 top 10s over the weekend. And special mention goes to Tim Slade. It qualified kind of nowhere. They came in really early, which I actually, when he came into the pit so early, I thought, he's going to have no tyres left at the end of this. This is going to be a mistake. It wasn't. He ended up finishing 4th, kind of from the middle of nowhere. Race 2 and normal running resumed. The standard kind of Townsville Triple Eight took off. Jamie Whincup leading. Shane Van Gisbergen did a quicker stop. Whincup stopped for 3 tyres. Shane stopped for 2, which gave him the undercut, and then he blocked Jamie and then drove away from him. So I thought it was a bit weird that Roland Dane actually came out and complained about Shane blocking Jamie. There's no favourites in this team. And then Jamie also came out and said at the start he was trying to gap the field for the team because, if there was a safety car and they had to double stack, if he backed Shane into the field, then he would, or some lame excuse for why he drove off into the distance while Shane chased him. Apparently that was for the team. No, I think that was just because you had a lot of pace and you could drive away from the field and you wanted to win, but you didn't. And race 3 was nearly another Shane Van Gisbergen fest, and Cam beat him off the start, and then Shane kind of, it looked like it caught him a bit by surprise doing the big dive bomb in at the last corner, and then was driving away. Then Macaulay Jones Macaulay'd himself and caused the first safety car of the whole 2 Townsville weekends, which is pretty spectacular in itself. And then in what Tim Edwards called a ballsy move, but we got away with it, Tickford left Cam out for an extra lap because they didn't pull the safety car out quick enough, so he could blaze around at full speed and essentially overtake Shane, while then he got caught behind the safety car, and the safety car then had to, slow him down and then let him go because Cam was actually the leader by that point. It's really hard to explain without kind of, I suppose, some kind of diagram thing that moves and whatnot. Probably, this is just what, if the safety car comes out, should all, go to, cruising speed or whatever. It's obviously dangerous if we need the safety car. So I'll complain about that in another video because this has been going on for quite a while. What we did get, though, was a brilliant battle towards the end of the race between, Cam and Shane, like at Bathurst last year, but roles reversed. Those two going at it tooth and nail for whatever it was, the last 15 or 20 laps or something. That was great to watch. That's what we want to see. And it's definitely more interesting when it is guys from 2 different teams going for it rather than, although it's good that the Triple Eight guys have been racing each other, it is a little bit soft. It just adds that intensity when it is 2 different teams going for it. So anyway, as I said, the championship, Shane Van Gisbergen is now on 1926 points. Jamie Whincup is 276 behind, so he's nearly got that whole round lead that he needs. The battle for third position, though, definitely hotted up. Waters has jumped back into third place. Mostert is only 8 points behind. And then Will Davison, another one behind. And then Anton, 680 points behind, in sixth there, behind Shane Van Gisbergen. Essentially, you're out of the championship. It doesn't really matter. But Frosty, Percat, Courtney and Brown are the other guys in the top 10. None of them have had stellar years, really, but they're in the top 10 of the championship, so well done to those guys. Last thing for this week, a little bit of a commentator's snafu, maybe. Before I get into that, commentating over the weekend, I prefer the Scaife and Tander in the combox than the Scaife and Chad Nalon that we had last week. And I thought Jack Perkins did a lot better job in the pits than what Craig Lowndes did this week. That might anger a lot of people because I know a lot of people like Chad Nalon, don't like Garth Tander, and I know a lot of people like Craig Lowndes and think Jack Perkins was a, no talent driver. Anyway, Garth Tander, when the Super 2 field was just ploughing into each other, Garth Tander came out with, oh, they're still coming. I'm just a child. I had a little chuckle. Anyway, let me know what you think of the racing over the weekend. Do you agree with me that the sprint races were actually better than the long distance races at Townsville? Which was a bit of a shock because I thought the long distance races were going to be better than the sprints there. But I've been wrong once before, so I'm happy to admit I was wrong in that case. Anyway, until next time, I'm still Dave, and I'll catch you later.